consistently happy. And I was like, why is that? Like, why are these emotions coming to me to where, I'll feel great. Like I'm like on a high for like 4 months and I'm going great and I feel amazing. And then I come to this point where I'm like, what is going on? And I'll feel like, ew. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And what I've noticed is that every time I seem to drift away from God, and I don't mean in a bad way, this happens, like, especially we're all on our individual journeys trying to connect to ourselves and, to God and trying to find our way in this world. Sometimes we feel like we start to drift away and drift away and drift away. And I've noticed that every time I drift away from God, every single time I get confronted with the same emotions. I feel lost. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know my purpose. And I feel sad. I feel all these negative emotions. And it's the same ones. And it happens every so often where I feel myself drifting. I'll read my Bible less and less. My prayers become shorter and shorter. And it's the same cycle, and I'm like repeating this. I can almost compare it to, if you go out in the ocean, right? And if you go a little too far out, you'll get stuck in like a rip current. And when you're stuck in a rip current, you can't come back. So I've noticed that anytime I feel myself kind of drifting a little too much, I get confronted with those emotions and then I come right back. Why? Because if we get stuck in that rip current, if we go too far away from God, guess where we're at? We're lost at sea, in the abyss of nothingness. And, why are we going to undo all the work we've done to get here, to get to this point? And it's this pattern of emotions, these patterns of behaviors that I've noticed that overwhelm me and they take over my body. And I'm like, okay, well, what are things that I could do to prevent this from happening? And, I've been trying to figure that out. I also feel like, I was in my talks with God. I was promising Him things. I have not been fulfilling them. There's tiny little things that I've promised Him that I'd work on, that I would do, that I would use everything for good to, allow Him to use me as a vessel to speak to people. And I have not been owning up to that. And, here I am admitting that. But, it all comes to like accountability. How are we going to hold ourselves accountable when we go too far? And, as much as I'd like to say, you can never go too far. Once you have the Spirit, once you are Spirit filled, you might not always feel like God is present in your life. But as long as you are Spirit filled, there's no amount of distance you can go that God cannot reach you. It might be harder to hear Him. It might be harder to see the signs. You might be deluded and you can't necessarily like see it at that moment. You can always come back from where you've been. But like I said, once you are lost at sea, it's so hard to come back. So how do we recognize these patterns and these emotions, and how do we bring ourselves back so we never go too far? Matter of fact, how do we stay in line? How do we position ourselves in a way that allows us to please God, to live our life, but not be too full of the world, but be in the world just enough so we can live abundantly, happily, and God-filled. God-filled, how do we fill ourselves with that joy every single day? I think it is more of coming to terms and knowing yourself in a way that allows you to put yourself in your own place and surround yourself around people who are just like you, that are on the same journey as you, that are not on, other journeys that are outside of what our goal is. And I'm not saying only be with people who are the only group. Like, yeah, it's okay to have people that are outside of that, but it is easier to be with people who are surrounded by the same energy, the same likeness, that are focused on God just as much as you are. So I think it is more of just like an accountability thing. Am I reading my Bible? Am I looking into scripture? Am I making it to church? Am I watching it online? Am I hanging out with these friends? Am I in these work environments that could potentially be disrupting our creative spaces and our intentions and purpose with the world. What are we doing physically in our daily lives that, we could position ourselves better, to be in better alignment, to hear from God, to trust God, to, be more in alignment with that. Like a recalibration that we need to do. So it's more or less like finding those things, finding those people, finding those places that help us connect to who we are and who we want to be. Because I could claim to be A, B, and C, but sometimes I'm not living like A, B, or C. Sometimes I'm living D, E, F, G. Sometimes I'm in the other parts of the alphabet and sometimes I'm outside of A, B, and C. Sometimes I'm D, sometimes I'm E. If we truly want to represent like who we are and our purpose and our messages and our gifts to the world, we have to live within our means. We have to live within, that vicinity of that. And going outside it is kind of like playing our own character, because if you want to represent something, you have to be fully committed to that. And honestly, it's a struggle, because it's like sometimes we're too lukewarm, or our toes are dipped in the water and our full body is not submerged into what it is that we're doing. And I've been coming to terms with that a lot. I feel like I've been lukewarm. I feel like I've been like just my toes dipped in. Sometimes the people around you can influence you negatively and you get sucked back into that. But we are not being lost at sea. We're finding middle ground. We're surrounding ourselves around better people. We're surrounding ourselves in better places. We are doing the things that keep us in line. I know how difficult it can be, because you want to live a certain life and there are certain people that are trying to dictate where you need to be or what you should be doing, or they're judging you and they're like, well, you talk about this, but you're doing this. And, there's a verse in the Bible that says, why judge someone who's got a speck in their eye when you got a log in your own? There are people that will judge you for things, but nobody is perfect in this life. And sometimes we are hard on ourselves to where we have to be a certain person or be a certain way at all times. We always have to be filled with joy, and we always have to be happy, and we always have to be pleasing others. But realistically, that's not sustainable. It's not. We're gonna have our highs and lows. We're gonna have our peaks and valleys. From personal experience, every time I drift away from God, I'm confronted with the same emotions, the same patterns, the same situations. And I'm pretty sure it's like that for you. It's difficult to have faith in things that you cannot see, faith in things that don't seem definite, faith in things that you can already see the problems from a mile away, miles away, and you're going through with them anyway. You need to have faith in God to have faith in other things that you're doing, because God is source energy. God is the energy that fuels purpose in everyone's life, that creates the world, that creates every single thing in it. Just like you would have faith that the sun rose up this morning, that you would be able to get out of your bed, get a coffee, eat a bagel. Like, you have to have that same faith in God, because not every single day is guaranteed. Where you will be after here is not guaranteed. You don't know. But what is guaranteed is death. We will die, unfortunately. But also, we might be somewhere better. We might be in a place that is way better that we could not ever even imagine. Unfortunately, all of the things that we've collected, all of the materials we've collected, all of these connections that we made might not be there after. So what is guaranteed is your faith in God, that God will take care of you, that this energetic force, this unseen wind, this composer of all things that is composing the lives of billions of people, that is creating constantly, that is expanding the ocean, that is creating all these beautiful life, these beautiful sunsets. That creator, that source is who you need to confide in. Without God, there is no love. There is no joy. There is no high vibrational feelings that you can feel. You could be deluded into feeling these things at certain points and moments, but they are short-term feelings. If you want longevity, if you want long-term love, if you want long-term fulfillment, you are going to have to turn to Him, because He is the one that saves you. He is the one that provides for you. He is the one that makes things come out of nowhere when you cannot see them. I could speak with confidence in situations where I was pulled out, ripped out, made new, and reborn into someone who, yes, I still have old tendencies that I'm trying to lose and I'm trying to drop, but I'm only human. And we all have this side to us where, there's things, we all have a past that, seems to linger on, that people seem to deem current when it is not current, it is past. That's why when you turn to God, there is no judgment. Besides on Judgment Day, there's nothing that He can't do with your life. You can become fully transformed, fully made new. You can live the life of your dreams, but without having that source energy that helps guide you through this world that He created, life is unfulfilling without Him. That's why it's important that we stay in alignment with Him, that we stay in alignment with ourselves, our authentic selves, that we're not coming outside of that bubble. We are staying in A, B, and C, and we're trying our best to be the best person that we can be so we can show up for us and others. Showing up for yourself and showing up for others can impact generations. So yeah, if you've been feeling like you are drifting away or you're feeling lost, come back to what matters. What matters is God. What matters is your focus and your realignment with Him. Everything will flow and come together as it's supposed to. But if your focus is not on God and not on that source, you're going to feel lost. When you come back to God, you come back to yourself. And it's not easy. It's extremely hard. As I said, I felt myself drifting until I came to terms with, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to drift. I want to be in alignment. I want to be in alignment with my soul's purpose. I want to be loved. I want to feel joy all the time again. Sometimes we have to feel these low emotions. We have to be depressed. We have to, God gave us this ability to feel these highs and to feel these lows, to appreciate the highs so we know that they exist. So we know that, we're not always meant to be happy. Sometimes we're meant to feel these emotions so we can realize where we're supposed to be, why these lows happened, why we have to feel these lows so we can understand that there are highs, there are higher of highs that we cannot even cease to believe, that we cannot foresee in our future. But they're there. They're already waiting for us. We just have to be open to the love and the joy of God so He can align us and put us on our divine path. That's what it's about. Focusing yourself on God so we can be in alignment with where we're supposed to be. If you are feeling lost, this is your cry out for help. This is your answer. God is your answer. So however that may look like, trying to show up, going to church, going to your services, showing up, being there, being ready. You're not supposed to know everything right away. You're not supposed to just wake up, oh, I know what I'm doing. Not a lot of people feel that way. As much as it may seem, there are people that have their stuff together, but they don't actually have their mental together. They don't have their mind together. They're lost. They might be career driven and career filled, and things might look pretty on the outside. Things are not ever what it seems. Because if you're not in alignment with your true creator and your true source, you're not feeling that love and joy. It could be mimicked through other people, through your job, through short-term conversations. You can mimic love, but the true, most beautiful, most authentic love is God's love. Thank you guys so much for showing up today. Just be open, just be filled with curiosity, be filled with as much light as you can. Step out of the darkness and be open to receiving new blessings and love. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Realign Podcast, and have a beautiful, blessed Sunday.